Okay, we're live. Welcome, everyone. I can't believe it's been a year already since we did this last time. Um, Welcome to you all. Welcome to everyone who's watching us on television. Thank you for being here. Just a quick thank you to our sponsors, Biggie's Supermarket and Eastworks. So I often refer to my opening remarks as the State of the Station address, which is kind of an odd phrase because it makes me think I should be up here and be serious and very composed and say a lot of things and wait for, dramatic applause and that's that's not what's going to happen this evening. Because let's be real, the state of this station I can sum up in 3 words. We're strong, we're resilient, and we're evolving. We're still doing what we do even while the ground is shifting underneath us. And this past year, we stayed focused, creative, and community driven. Despite the declining cable revenue, we leaned in, not out, and the results speak for themselves. In the last 12 months, we've produced 98 live programs, 267 local government meetings, 110 studio productions, 25 field productions, 63 member-led projects, and 29 partner productions. That's over 500 unique productions created, supported, and shared right here at eMedia. And all of it with a staff, thanks. And all of it with a staff you could fit in a minivan, although you will never see Jackson riding in a minivan. We've welcomed new producers, launched new shows, hosted incredible local artists, and continued to be a creative home for musicians, filmmakers, students, and community groups. We're proud of the work, and we're also proud of this community who trusts us to keep showing up. And then there's the Go Digital Easthampton program. This was the year our mission expanded in a big way. Last year I mentioned in my remarks that in an effort to diversify our funding, we would have to lean into these types of efforts in our communities, and we certainly did that. We partnered with the city to launch a new digital literacy program aimed at closing the tech gap, and not just by teaching people how to use computers, but by helping them feel comfortable with the tools that so many of us take for granted. We offered structured classes, weekly tech support drop-ins, a learn-to-earn Chromebook program, and a device lending program. We teamed up with the Council on Aging, the Public Library, and other city agencies, as well as local nonprofits. And the result, we helped older adults and first-time tech users gain valuable computer skills, send their first emails, organize their devices, and confidently ask questions without fear of judgment. I need these now. We're doing what we've always done by helping demystify technology. We're building digital confidence, and in doing so, we've reached people who may never have walked through our doors. And who knows, maybe one of those people will end up being our next producer of the year. It's been a shift, not just in what we do day to day, but in who we are. eMedia isn't just about cameras and content anymore. We're a place for learning, access, support, and connection. Above all, we're here to inform. The challenges ahead are real. We still need to secure more sustainable funding, and the future of community media is evolving fast. But we've proven that we can adapt. We've proven that what we do still matters. And that happens to be the theme of tonight. Community media matters. With your continued support, we're going to keep showing up for this community in new and meaningful ways. So thank you to our members, our partners, our staff, my board, and everyone who believes in the work. We couldn't do it without you. Let's keep going. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce our board president, Chris Ferry.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. All right, this is way overwritten. I'd like to just begin by introducing the members of our board. Frank Tallarico is our vice president. Frank brings decades of production experience working with ESPN, the X Games, the World Cup, I don't know if you've heard of it, more. Jonathan Schmidt is our treasurer. Jonathan is a librarian, researcher, and equity advocate who understands the value of free and open access to knowledge. Nathan Markey is our clerk. Nathan is a visual artist, a voting rights advocate, and a passionate supporter of community dialogue. Nilda Cohen is a nonprofit veteran from Southampton with expertise in arts education, advertising, and finance, who served on the board as our treasurer previous to Jonathan. And Mary and Sarah, who some of you may have met in the lobby, but unfortunately had to rush out. She's the newest addition to our board. She's a longtime activist, writer, and community leader with inspiring energy and enthusiasm. And I want to thank Jeff, our director, for his leadership. I've moved to New England in general, but to Easthampton in 2020. And I started the Easthampton Film Festival here as a way to build community for myself. And that really grew out of meeting Jeff here and seeing this space and the enormous potential that he and Tim and Lucinda and Jackson have created. I'd like to take a moment and just say an extra big thanks to all of them, our team here. And we just had the 4th year of that festival. We couldn't do it without the incredible partnership of eMedia. It's why I joined the board, because I see the incredible work that is possible here firsthand. Yeah, you don't need to hear about all that. I think when we talk about community media matters, what chimes with me about that is the community. The media is kind of obvious, right? We're for better or for worse, we're drowning in media. We're bludgeoned by media. At least this is how I feel every day. It's crazy making. But what I love about eMedia, and by extension, the work that I see the community doing here, is it's just the opposite of that. It's connective tissue building. I see it in the film festival. We've shot local films here. We screen here, of course. We've done interviews and panel discussions here. I've made so many new friends through the work of that in this space. And while it is important, while free speech is the foundation of our democracy, for me, it's really the active use of that matters. Having the right and using the right. Using the right's more important. What it builds is this connection together. And I think we have to be doing that in our community if we want to strengthen what we've got here. I think we have to make our voices heard with respect, with an open mind, in good faith, whether that's a podcast or independent film or a YouTube channel or a mayoral debate or whatever it is. Where we are as a board right now, we're facing 2 big challenges. Broad strokes, 2 big challenges. One is that cable television, which is our traditional source of revenue, is going extinct. And that's a scary set of challenges that I think we have to figure out how to look at as opportunities. Opportunities to build partnerships with local businesses. We don't have an answer to announce for you tonight, but that's one big problem we've been wrestling with. And the other is how best to evangelize the enormous excitement and potential energy that exists in a place like this, right? I like to think of eMedia as the community's megaphone to not just share ideas, but to share stories and share creativity and to get together and celebrate that. And I've seen that grow enormously just even over this past year. And I think that's in large part to Jeff's excellent vision and belief in the mission. And I'm very, very excited to continue that work. I will say we have 3 open seats on the board. If you are interested at all, please talk to myself or Jonathan or Jeff or anybody really here at eMedia. Let's have that conversation. We need collaborators. Yeah, I look forward to what's next. Thanks. Jeff, I'm not sure. Should I hand it back to you?
Yeah, sure.
Hand it back to Jeff.
And now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Jackson Foote, our production manager, will now introduce our producer of the year and present the award.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Jackson Foote. Here I actually have production coordinator, but I'm gonna scratch that off and say manager now. It feels good to say that. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna clap too. I'm honored to present the 2025 Producer of the Year Award. Before I introduce the Producer of the Year, I'd like to congratulate some of our other producers. To start, I want to congratulate 2 producers that have been producing content for 10 years and counting. This goes to Ted Perch, production of In Studio that has 61 episodes, Penelope Chatterton, producer of Awaken the Dream that has 64 episodes. Let's give a congratulations to them on their 10th year anniversary. I'd also like to congratulate new producers who started creating content within the past months, starting with Donna Jensen, the Time to Tell podcast, Lindsay Labonte with Real People Real Estate, Charlie Cooley with The Show, a puppet variety show, Amy Dawn Cotel with Hot Elder podcast, Tony Mango started a program with the Diverse Leaders Club of the Easthampton High School, and our very own Victor Hernandez, who created the eMedia music sessions. Let's give it up for our new producers. So, after some long, hard deliberation with my team and I, we had to choose the 2025 Producer of the Year. This person started creating content in 2023. He came in with an idea to interview community members in the Western Mass area. And now 2 years later, he has successfully produced 25 episodes and counting. He's interviewed a variety of different community members, ranging from artists, politicians, business owners, other directors and producers, engineers, advocates, and so on. Some of his most popular episodes feature Thomas Drought, who's actually in the audience tonight. He is one of the many things he's done is director of This Old House. Peter J. Newland, who plays in the rock band called Fat. Richard Richardson, who is the environmental artist, creator, and caretaker for the Three Sisters Sanctuary, as well as Michael Jargon, who builds biochar manufacturing systems. Not only is this producer a TV producer, but he also has his own radio show called Alphabet Soup, which airs on Valley Free Radio. He also has his own history in public access community TV. Before his time with us at eMedia, he was the programming director at Falls Cable in Buckland, Shelburne Falls. Now, let's take a look at a reel of his show.
I'm right on top. So I bought it in 1976. I spent the first...
But the installation basically tells a story, you know.
For a little while, I had many friends my age. My father worked on some farming projects with people, but Guyana became the place we would go back and forth to every year. We went there 8 times, up until I was about 12 years old.
Well, just go back just a little bit to get me from here to California to Boston. 89, I left.
Hello, my name is James Sullivan. Welcome to another edition of Pioneer Valley Life. We're here in the studios of Easthampton's eMedia. Pioneer Valley Life will feature conversations between myself and guests who live and or work in the Pioneer Valley. Thanks for tuning in.
And then here we go.
And,
well, let's congratulate James Sullivan on being the 2025 Producer of the Year. Come on up, James. Let me pause this really quick. So, in recognition of your continued commitment and dedication to the creation of community programming, James Sullivan is awarded Producer of the Year.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much. I am James Sullivan, and you'll notice that the two most important props that I have are notes and my glasses. So I need those. There are the Golden Globe Awards, the Tony Awards, the Grammy Awards, and the Academy Awards. But this award is just as important to me as they are to their recipients. First, I'd like to thank my guests on Pioneer Valley Life. We've had great conversations, and without them, I'd just be a guy sitting in the left-hand chair with nothing to say. Although I have to thank Thomas Drought, who you heard of a little while ago. He actually put me in the right-hand chair one time when he interviewed me, and I enjoyed that a lot. I'd like to thank Jackson Foote for making it so easy to record my show and for making it look great for the viewers. Thank you to Jeff and Lucinda for all they do for eMedia. Thank you to the board of eMedia. Thank you to the city of Easthampton for supporting eMedia. Spectrum would probably like you to think that they are the supporter of community TV, but it is really the individual subscribers who support stations like eMedia, so thank you to them. So that every month in your bill, there's a certain amount of money that you pay that comes to support community TV, not in this town, but just about every town in Massachusetts that has a contract with either Spectrum or Comcast, with these big, giant companies who don't take the money out of their own pocket. It's actually something that you pay for every month. And that's what goes to support a place like this, and hopefully we'll continue to do that, although we've heard that there's a lot of questions about what the future of community TV or cable access and all those things that are happening are going to bring. And it's going to be a challenge for everybody, you know, any kind of government or the people here at eMedia, of just trying to figure out how everything is going to continue. And you know, just hearing the fact that, you know, that the community, what was the phrase again? Community something matters. Sorry, I didn't get the middle word. Okay. I'd like to thank the viewers of my show, Pioneer Valley Life. And I'd also like to thank all the residents of the Pioneer Valley, because they give me the ideas for my show. It's a really vibrant area that goes from Springfield all the way to Brattleboro, really, and east and west as well, Amherst, and a lot of towns. And it's the people that live here, and that's why a lot of you live here, because you like what goes on in this area. And I like to present stories that are relevant to the people who make up the population here. And I'd like to really echo what everybody else has said. And you know, I can't say enough about the support I've had from everyone here at eMedia. One of you, as Jeff mentioned, one of you here in the studio or watching on TV could be standing here next year. If you have an idea for a show, everything you need is right here at eMedia. Take advantage of it. It's here for you, and you know, I've taken advantage of it, and you know, I love it. I love doing my show. I love speaking to people. I've had great guests. I can't, you know, tell you how important this has been to me, you know, in my life. And lastly, tomorrow is my 79th birthday, and this is a very nice present. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, happy birthday, James. I'd like to now call Jeff back up to the stage.
Okay. Hello. So, this is traditionally the point in the evening where we would bring up a distinguished guest to give a keynote address. And I wanted to do that again. And I invited a guest who willingly agreed to come and deliver the keynote. But then I had this idea, and I've had this idea for a while. Based on the theme of this evening, Community Media Matters, this is actually an idea that I had more than a year ago, which was to create a podcast about community media, talking to folks who work in community media, who support community media, who know things about how this works and how this might work in the future, to educate people. Because I think one of the things I've learned now being in this field for 17-ish years is that most people don't know about us. In fact, once or twice a day, somebody will come by here and look in the door and say, what's going on in here? Or they'll come in here for a class and they'll look at these lights and they'll think, wow, I had no idea this was here. What is this place? And it's not just us. This is the same story that has been a through line in my career in community media, wherever I've worked. And this is now my third community media station. So I wanted to create a podcast. So I spoke with our guest the other day, and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And she said, I think it's a great idea. So here's what's happening now. We're actually going to do the first episode of the Community Media Matters podcast now, in front of a live audience, because why not do something you've never done right in front of a live audience, right? I mean, I lived in a skiing community, in a ski resort community for 12 years, and, the theme there is always go big or go home. So this is what we're doing. So I'm going to introduce my first guest, who really needs no introduction, but Nicole LaChapelle was first elected mayor of Easthampton in 2017 and has served as a steady hand to weather the crisis of COVID-19. Through her leadership, Easthampton has received a record amount in grants and investments in the city's roads, open space, housing, business, community, and transportation, among others. During her tenure, Nicole has overseen milestone projects like the new Mountain View K-8 school, the River Valley Co-op, and One Ferry Street, while protecting the Easthampton community's best interests. Prior to her service as mayor, Nicole served as a local attorney focused on civil rights advocacy, especially as it pertains to education and disabilities. A Holyoke native, Nicole graduated from Smith College with a BA in government and earned her JD from Western New England School. Please welcome my first guest in the Community Media Podcast, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. This will not be the set for every podcast, just so you know. We don't have a budget for fresh flowers for.
I was just going to say, wow.
It's like, wow, right? Someday when we get those big sponsors, yeah. There's some water here for you too, if you need it. But so welcome and thank you, I should say first, for being such a great partner and friend to Easthampton Media. I want to tell this story with permission about our first meeting. Anyone who knows me or has worked with me knows I'm a huge fan of a certain band that starts with Grateful and ends with Dead. And when I started working here, now almost 4 years ago, my second week, I believe it was, I decided to take an alternate route to Easthampton, explore the area a little bit. So I came down Route 10, and I go through the lights, and then pow, there's a giant mural of Jerry Garcia. And in that moment, my whole life, all of a sudden, crystallized into this thing where I'm like, I found my home. This is it. This is meant to be. So that was a sign. So I came back, spent the afternoon listening to some music in my office, preparing for my first meeting with the mayor that afternoon. So I showed up at Nicole's office, and she welcomed me in, and we started chatting. And then all of a sudden, she picks up her mug to take a sip of whatever's in the mug. And there
It was water. It was water.
Okay. Could have been tea. But there's the giant Grateful Dead symbol, Steal Your Face, we call it, on the mug. And I was in mid-sentence and just stopped my thought, like right there, like, oh my God, there's my other sign. And it was so obvious that I was just like, you know, a lightning bolt had just hit me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love your mug. I love that band. I'm like, oh my God. So in that moment, I had a pretty good feeling that we would get along pretty all right.
I mean, I'm not saying that I would support community media no matter what, but Jeff did do the station very well by putting forward his love of Grateful Dead. It was just easier and easier to be working with the station and seeing what it's become. But yes, and I was dancing to Grateful Dead music here, live
Just the other
show,
day. Yeah.
Left Mind Body, produced brilliantly, and the sound was great. My family was here. I can't wait to come back.
That was fun, yeah. This past Saturday, we had a art walk opening here for our latest artists. Actually, it's a group of artists. If you've seen the photographs, please do take some time to look at the work out in the gallery. But yeah, we had a great opening that day, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And so thank you again for being here for that. But that's not what we're here to talk about. I do have a couple of quick intro questions. You know, you're wrapping up your time as mayor, nearly 8 years now. How are you feeling about this chapter of your life coming to a close?
It's surreal because it feels like there are many chapters of my life wrapping up right now, certainly mayor, but then post-COVID, wrapping up not being a grandmother and now being a grandmother, walking out, and also thinking about getting back to, you know, I think I did a really good job of walking into office with a set of values and a sense of integrity of what I wanted to be able to do with the community. And walking out, I think I have a better sense of who I am. And kind of wrapping up the 8 years is also kind of putting me in this space of wrapping up who I am, the integrity, the values, and what's next. And we'll see. Passing a budget is first.
Yeah, right. So some folks may not know this, but actually you had your own show at, I guess it was Easthampton Media at that point, I'm guessing, right? Yes. Before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. What made you want to use community media as part of your work back then?
I mean, it was a way to reach out and demystify local government, but also demystify the mayor or anybody as an elected official, and that could be you talking. And we did a lot of really goofy things, as you can imagine, but also talked through a lot of the big projects that I'm so proud of in a very relaxed way, like the planner or the police chief, where you could watch something at a very plain step-by-step minute and not in an overly structured meeting that needs to follow open meeting law rules and Robert Rule of Order and lots of visuals. And it was a great way to, I think it started with introducing to the community who I was as a mayor and what the community was doing out of my administration. And what happened is I got to know the community much better, and a level of interaction that wouldn't have happened without Easthampton Media.
Okay. I just want to point out that you can find the archived episodes on our website. Perhaps on our website. I don't think they've made it to VOD, but they'd certainly be on our YouTube channel. So if you...
I scrubbed my social media. I didn't think about this.
Oh, well, I could be wrong, too. Actually, Tim could give me the thumbs down if I'm wrong there, but we're not sure. How about...
Yeah, we're going to talk later, Tim, about what's going to be available. Yeah.
Okay. So, as you know, community media has evolved a lot in the past few years, right? Especially since the pandemic. Our scope of services has expanded dramatically. We typically, the arrangement is that we sign a contract with the municipality. By we, I mean all of us who do this work. We have specific contracts for services with our communities. And the pandemic just sort of like evaporated all of those terms, and now we do it all. You heard the number, 276 between not just Easthampton, but Easthampton and Southampton. And hello, people in Southampton, if you're watching. And that's a lot, right? But the other thing, as you know, is that our scope also broadened and expanded, especially this year, moving into the digital equity space. And again, I think it's important to point out that we are not the only ones who did that either.
We were in the first cohort.
We were in the first cohort, and we are, I will say this because I am very proud of this fact, we are the only ones who actually have a partnership with the municipality, due to the fact that you took the initiative in helping to create with Karen Kamahort, one of our invaluable team members, the director of IT here for the city. But because you created that digital equity plan, and then were able to apply for the funding through the Massachusetts Broadband Institute, we were able to create what we have now solely for this community. And while, as I said, there are other community access centers that are doing this work, those are basically one-year funded grant positions through the larger Alliance for Digital Equity, and are very much at risk because there's a certain word now that we're not allowed to say, and it begins with E and ends with Y, and anything associated with equity now is bad, and you can't. I'm sorry I said it out loud, but I'm very happy with the way this all panned out for us this year, and we're still going. It's not over, and we're planning on hopefully keeping this sustainable. But you've helped us really expand our reach in the community. And in fact, you approved a $50,000 ARPA grant, which has been put to very good use. In fact, I think most of the equipment that you see in this room right now was the result of that. So you've been a huge friend to us and a great partner, as I said before. Why is it important to you to support community media?
I mean, I think a whole bunch of different. One, I just want to be a partner and to be a friend and extend the reach of eMedia. Hats off to the team here in explaining what community media can do. So most people know what, in my head, it was, this is how I rewatch city council meetings and school committee meetings, and this is how, and then the idea of what it could be in the shows and producing and education, I didn't know or think of that until you said, hey, we not only can we do this, we should do this. This enriches the community. This brings people together. And when COVID rolled around, it was a vital life thread of how people can relate to each other. And that is something that is always fascinating and vital to me. I think that, I've said it a lot lately, I think maybe with James I said it, the city-state, the concept of the city-state is probably one of the most potent, strong, and good things the human race has created. And to have a healthy city-state, you have to have community, and community is communication, right? I mean, we're all our own little silos until we talk to each other. And this media, the multimedia formats that eMedia and community media presents is unparalleled. You just, it just doesn't happen on your own. And I know everybody thinks flipping on a phone is, but this is quality stuff that not only communicates what's going on in our community, but in our government and how it all relates. So that's tremendously important. And in this day where the First Amendment is being put on a I was going to get a fine now.
It's community media. We can say those words here.
When the First Amendment is being, pushed aside or redefined in some would say alarming ways, and others are just fine with it. But that is a call to arms for all sides, and all parts of the continuum to come and grab your voice and put your voice, First Amendment rights forward. And there's no better place to do this. One, Jackson makes you look really good. There are teleprompters. The cameras are much better than anybody's iPhone or Android. But it's also broadcast into your communities, and I've learned more tonight about a show that's here can be broadcast on other community media stations. So, I mean, if you want to be talking about something you're excited about or share, or put it out there so then people can reach out to you to learn, this is a great place to do this. So I would encourage, instead of barking at, the clouds of social media, I would say come here and have a podcast or, put together maybe short clips of film, and you can edit on some really cool keyboards. And do it that way, a more face-to-face and outreach than kind of just barking at the blue bar of Facebook. So.
Okay. Because I haven't done this before, my structure of my questions is such that you have just answered the other two questions that I had along these lines, which is great. That for
Favorite
time,
place to
for
see
time,
Grateful
that-
Dead show, Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Awesome.
Late 80s shows, highly recommend.
Yes. So let me think of something here really quickly. You understand the situation that we're in with our funding. You are the president of the Massachusetts Mayors Association, correct?
Past president,
Past
I just stepped
president.
down.
I'm curious because we have had some conversations. In fact, I introduced you to the president of the Mass Access Board, David Gauthier, who's trying to get you to perhaps work your magic in getting some of the mayors to back the legislation that is still in discussion in committee. I'm not sure what
It's still live. It's still live. Didn't
Okay.
do so well last session, but we're back at it.
Yeah. But in your estimation, what would it take ultimately for us to be able to tweak this funding model to make it sustainable? I mean, is it possible? And I should also say this, and I keep interrupting myself. We are in the midst currently of negotiations for the franchise agreement with Charter Spectrum, who is the cable provider for Easthampton and the folks responsible for essentially passing the funding through to us. But we know there are internet providers first. They've just signed a merger with Cox Cable to be what appears to be the largest internet provider in our country in 48 states. They're internet providers first. Do you see, so I'm rephrasing my question, do you see the potential for being able to get some of that money as well, given the fact that people are streaming, given the fact that our entire broadcast workflow is over the internet? Is that something you feel like might be a possibility?
I do. I think that it's a possibility, and I think the provision of internet has now become equal to telephone and TV. And I do see an equation coming where internet providers, that little fee, would come to community media channels and organizations like this. I think that's very possible, and you see shades of that. It's just I'm not an expert. Not a doctor. Don't play one on TV either. But always happy to put stuff out. Where internet and the access to internet is now something that is a universal need. And I do think in a funding formula, on a national level, that funding that is going down with cable subscribers, we'll see coming up with other, and I think it's internet. I would love to see some kind of formula too, where it's not just a per user, but also has something to do with the demographics of the area and media markets. And I do think that's, if you can figure out where to put an ad, you can figure out how to monetize who can or who can't access basic news, community programming because of technical issues. I think that should be an adder on what the formula is now on cable to put that on to internet. And I think it's I think there's a less strong case to do it for mobile phones. I think it's it's there. I mean, right? We don't want to fall into the trap where the mobile phone is the technology device for folks, and go. I think that's a short road that ends pretty quickly. But I there's stuff in federal legislation now that kind of hints that it should and could, and there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline because we can't, First Amendment and free speech and sharing ideas, whether folks like him or not, is essential to our democracy. And I know it's kind of like a buzz, but you also see that in the intent of our Bill of Rights, in our U.S. Constitution, our Mass Constitution, and so many long-standing federal and state laws. The jurisprudence is that First Amendment is a true right, and that we should all have freedom to express ourselves. But if you're in the middle of a forest and you're expressing yourself and nobody hears it, is it really First Amendment right, and are you exercising it? And to take away that access in a digital world, I think suppresses First Amendment right and free speech. The two are there's a really smart word to use right here, but they're interconnected. Yeah, I don't know. I'll ask Nathan after the show.
That's a great point, and Chris made a great point earlier. I think we hear a lot of people say, in fact, I believe it was James or one of our board members who actually overheard one of the cable folks talking about how nobody watches this anyway, and so, Chris made that point of like, people have to use this, to make this viable and to give us that relevance. It's great that we can pivot and evolve and do things like digital equity programs and all that, but at the end of the day, we are still here to help create digital content and bring community, bring the community together in that way. Yeah. And I think, finding what that, how do we do that is our biggest challenge as an organization.
Well, I mean, it's important as the money, from cable companies and that fee, and hopefully from internet providers. I think that there's another, part of this of access and getting the word out. If this is, the idea of PEG access cable is real, and I don't think that's real for the cable companies. I think it's just something they're made to do, and that's how they look at it. They have no incentive to promote or let people know what you can do in the studio. In fact, if it all just kind of goes away, then it's just more money for them.
Right.
And it doesn't mean it's better service. I think also there is a danger, and maybe this is a little too philosophical, but when you talk about watching or taking in any kind of media content, the thing that stirs people to a healthy and more vital life is what they're looking at and what they're hearing. It looks and hears, listens like you. And there is no better way to see you than on your community media channels and in the studios. And I do think, while that sounds so tiny, it is a huge threat to somebody like a Charter, Cox Cable, to a Facebook, because this is, now I'm really getting meta. I love the Matrix too. It's outside of the Matrix. They don't control the content, right? I mean, it's, if we're going to, you want to, start something or have a real conversation or put something different out there as far as any kind of media content or pictures or, I do have this idea. I'm going to go so off. So I love animals mostly. And the video cams and stuff like that. I would love to have a live animal cam.
Dog cam.
Yeah, only it'd be just Muppets. Just Muppets. Just like Ernie and Bert, right? I mean, it just, eyes on Elmo, everybody going, Elmo, there's everybody. So we'll talk about that later. But exactly, that's outside of, the idea, that that's something that is outside of an algorithm that can be captured here, that folks can come, to and see, but then also inspired to create. And I think that there's a piece of the funding is very important, but also exactly what it is. I do think that the cable companies, the government, we have a responsibility to say, free speech is available here. You can produce it. Jackson will help you.
For sure.
I think it's important.
Yeah. So I think my producer is talking in my ear right now that we should try to wrap it up here. And for those of you who don't know, James actually had Nicole here as his guest this afternoon. So this is a double header for you, and that's big.
Yeah, this is massive. I mean, I feel it's my big debut, and I'm regretting the Muppet thing already, but it's here for posterity.
It's out there. So two. Looking back, what are you most proud of accomplishing as mayor? That's a big one.
I don't know. It depends on the day and what when I'm walking down the rail trail and I see the East Street switchback trail, then that's what I'm most proud of. I look at One Ferry Street, the schools. I think that maybe the one is that people say Easthampton looks different. It's this, it's that. And so I love hearing that. But for me, when I look out the window, and I've lived here since '96, and I look out my big bubble windows of my office, what I am proud of is that the people that are in the streets, they've always been there. They never came out on the streets, and now they're out. And I'm really proud of that.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Finally, what advice would you give to residents who want to stay engaged, whether it's through local government, community media, or public service?
I would, geez.
I know.
It's doing so good. Let's talk about Muppets.
Something to Grateful Dead.
What did I do? I would think about, what are you missing in community? What do you love that you don't see, that you don't hear, that you think should move around? And not just because we're sitting here. Watch some of the public meetings on community access, just to get the flavor, not even the content, but the flavor of how the community acts and interacts, get comfortable with that. And then kind of put your toe in the water. And I would start with going to library reading groups. I'm trying to think of how I started. I think I probably got really upset about something. It wasn't going the way I thought they should. Yes, it actually was. Getting vegetables, and it was a pain in the neck to get over Route 9 bridge and Old Turtle Farm, which was the original CSA on East Street before it was Mountain View. And a whole bunch of us really got mad, and Tony and Eileen brought us into the house and said, we're going to do this, and we're going to have good vegetables here. And that rolled into being on the Zoning Board of Appeals and stuff like that. So start with something that you really care about and that you're interested in, and let your secret film producer come out, like James, and produce your show or help somebody do it. But ultimately, open your mouth and start talking, I guess, and find people who the words are similar. That's a tough one, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that one to every guest. I think that's going to be. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. So I'm going to let you go back to your seat, and I'm going to close this out and let you all go.
I bring Gerard everywhere I go.
Okay. Am I on here? Do we have audio? Thank you, Jackson. Okay, that was great. And kind of freaky. I've never done that before, so I don't think I've even actually done a full interview like that. So that was a great start. And thank you again. I'm going to wrap it up here, but first, I do need to give some shout outs to my staff. First of all, to Lucinda Arnold, our operations admin, our gatekeeper, and maybe our biggest fan. She watches nearly everything we produce. She runs our social media and manages our website and has built a smart, informative quarterly newsletter. She also launched our Artist Spotlight series, which highlights the work of the artists featured in our gallery. And she's a talented artist herself. Her own work was on display for the last 3 months, and honestly, I miss seeing it here on the walls. In the nearly 2 years since she's joined us, one thing has become very clear. Lucinda cares. She cares about the quality of her own work, the quality of our producers' work, and about the mission we serve in the community. She's always thinking about how to improve and expand our reach, and she's become a kind of connective tissue holding eMedia together. I'm genuinely sad that she's not here tonight because she's one of the best things to happen to this place, and having her dog Rosie around doesn't hurt either. Thank you, Lucinda. Jackson Foote, the other best thing that's happened to eMedia. He started as an intern in the spring of 2022 and quickly proved himself sharp, adaptable, and ready to learn. By that fall, we hired him, and he hasn't looked back. Now in his 3rd year as our production manager, Jackson's got the kind of quiet confidence and technical skill that makes people feel at ease the moment they walk through our doors. This is Jackson's house. Our producers know it, and I know I can trust him to get the job done no matter what it is. He's a pleasure to work with, a rock-solid teammate, and a steady presence I deeply value. Thank you, Jackson. Tim Riley. If Lucinda is the glue and Jackson is the rock, then Tim is the duct tape. He just gets things done, whatever it is. Tim's been around for a long time, 17 years, I think. He came aboard as an intern as well, and then was hired out of high school back when this was still Easthampton Community Access Television, and he's seen it all. He's our unofficial historian, and as a true local, a wealth of knowledge and perspective. When he had to step away from his full-time role, I was a bit gutted, because people like Tim don't get replaced. And so I feel very fortunate that we got to keep him around, at least part-time. He still programs our channels, manages the head end and playback systems, runs the broadcast booth for most of our live government meetings, and joins us for nearly every major field production. But I still haven't quite adjusted to not seeing him here every day. Thank you, Tim. Thanks also to Jack Ormsby, Adam Yang, Damian Middleton, Victor Augusto Hernandez, and Jody Jenkins, who have all been regular members of our crew this past year. I have a great team, and not a day goes by that I'm not grateful for that. So that brings the end to our 2025 eMedia annual meeting. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to those watching on TV. Good night.
Hi, I'm Victoria Roccaforte, and I'm here with the Easthampton Mayor, Nicole LaChapelle, and I'm super curious. So the motto of Easthampton Media is Community Media Matters. I'm curious, how much does community media matter to you?
It matters a lot. I mean, community media matters because it's about us, and it's a great opportunity to show our community and community members what we are, what we do, what we love, and push back against media outlets that are massive and just really pushing content at us, not for education as much for tell us what to buy next. And we can tell our own stories on community media.
You were mentioning in the annual meeting we were in just now how important it is for people to just get out and learn how to use this awesome technology and all the resources. What are the advantages of getting involved in community media, say, than making TikTok content?
I think that there's a level of intention and professionalism, as well as the reaching a person. You think about the content you see on TV, there's a certain quality of it, there's a certain timing of it, a spacing. That's the difference between how you sound and look on this interview and I do, and And I think that coaching, I think that there's more satisfaction of your final product as a content producer when you're working with a team where that's their gig. It makes a big difference.
Definitely. And and I'm also curious, like, what opportunities you see in Easthampton and just like in the Pioneer Valley in general with like the arts, especially with funding being stripped back. What are the opportunities out there to get out there and like create your own stories?
I mean, I think e-media. I mean, literally, I mean, yeah, it's like this. But if you think about, I mean, truly think about, you want to create, you want to get, you want to push back at the world. You want to make your own space in the world. You have all of the equipment. There's the software here. You're not worried about how to run this, that, or the other thing. You've got support. Show the world what the world can be. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. This was so fun. And yeah, thanks for supporting eMedia.
Pleasure.
Yeah. So with eMedia's motto being community media matters, I'm curious, why does community media matter to you?
I've seen the way it empowers people in the community. It's given, and frankly, I don't like this saying where it gives a voice to the voiceless. I don't think anybody's voiceless. I just think some are amplified more than others, and I think that that's the benefit of community media is that we're there. You can come in with an idea, and we have all the resources. We have the staff. We can train you, the facilities, and it's not just us. I'm talking broad, community media in general. And it's about you. At the end of the day, we're not really taking credit for this. I have a hard enough time to get my staff to put their name on the end reel saying that they edited or they were on camera or whatever. But it's because really it's about the producer. It's about the people, and that matters a lot to me. It also matters that it's kind of a level playing field. Where the media environment now is so saturated. And things like TikTok and YouTube and that stuff, I mean, that's kind of the new sort of community media, except that it's not a community, it's not a community thing, it's not community based, it's all about the person and the person's idea and trying to get YouTube famous and, make $1 million making dumb videos about your cat. I mean, great, but, is that helping anybody? Is that like pushing the humanity forward at all? I don't think so, but that's an opinion. But I think that's the longish answer to your question.
What can people do to get involved with eMedia, like help out with projects? How can they get involved?
They can just show up here. We're open 10 to 6, Monday through Friday. Come on in. Go to our website. Check out, all the information is there. It's super easy to sign up. Our memberships are not exclusive to residents of Easthampton or Southampton. You can live anywhere around here and become a member. We just want people who are interested in making content for local community television. And of course, that's it's not just local anymore. As I'm sure you're aware, everything's worldwide now. We're on YouTube. We're streaming our channels 24/7. So it's like, it's super easy. We've got a lot of really great equipment. I've got a really talented group of staff people here helping me out and working with us. And so, just show up. We're happy to help.
Some incredible art comes out of eMedia, so definitely check it out. And thank you so much, Jeff, for creating the space for artists. Yeah.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I would love to hear more about the show that you produce. You just won Producer of the Year, so I would love to hear more about your show and how it sort of came to fruition.
I had an idea for a show. I had some experience with community TV up in Buckland and Shelburne, doing some interviews. And coming in here, when I moved to Easthampton, I thought I wanted to continue to do that. And I was pleased to find that they are very supportive of people who have their own ideas, and it can get done. And so I had an idea that I scrapped that one. Then I got another idea because I have spent, I first came to this area back in 1963 when I went to UMass Amherst. And I've come and gone from the area quite a few times, and now I live in Easthampton, so obviously I came here because I still had an interest in doing a show. So I came up with an idea of saying, well, this is an extremely interesting area. The Pioneer Valley, you know, a lot of people define it in different ways, but basically it goes from Springfield past Greenfield almost to Brattleboro, and then east and west as well. And so you've got the 5 colleges, you've got a lot of interesting things going on here, and you've got a lot of people that have moved to this area because of the type of area that it is. So I thought it would be interesting to interview. I prefer to call it a conversation rather than an interview. I don't come in with a prepared set of questions. The conversation goes where it's going to go, and I'll have some input, to try and steer it in certain directions at times. But I leave it up to the fact that these are interesting people that I've chosen, and I have faith in them, presenting a great story that would be of interest to the other residents in the Pioneer Valley.
How are you finding your guests? Are you just like meeting interesting people? Are these people that you've known for a while since you've been in the Valley for quite a bit?
Some of them are people who I've known for a long time. I had an artist friend of mine was actually my very first guest.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And others come suggested to me by other people. I'll learn about people either through newspaper stories or all sorts of things, and I go, that would be interesting. And then not everybody that I invite accepts the invitation, but some do. As a matter of fact, it's funny because this morning I interviewed the mayor, and Jeff didn't actually know that I was doing that today, and they had this planned for tonight, so she got a good workout.
Okay, yeah, so that worked out really well.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you have like one particular maybe like episode or guest that stands out to you who you had on your show.
Well, I'm 79 years old, so maybe my memory is not that great, but right. Yeah, the more recent ones come to mind. The one previous to the one that's showing now was with a young man from Plainfield who has started a thing called the Uplift Project, where he is making small grants to indigenous people in the country of Guyana in South America, in the very rural areas. There's a lot of oil discovered off the coast of Guyana, and so the coast is very well developed, but inland, not very much at all. So a small grant to somebody of $500 puts them in business. Like a woman could buy a freezer, and then she could have. At one time, she had chickens, and she would sell frozen chicken parts to the school for their lunch program and to other people. And so a lot of people down there have what are called snackettes. So a little room in people's houses where they sell stuff. Somebody might sell tuna fish, canned tuna fish. Somebody else might sell gum. Somebody else might sell whatever. And that's how they support themselves. And so they had the idea to support these people with small grants. And a grant of $500 up here in this country wouldn't go very far, but down there it goes a long ways. And so him being 21 years old and being, so deeply committed to that idea was really interesting.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the power of like community media, how like that is definitely like not considered a mainstream story by any means, but you got to learn so much about it and interview the person who was doing that. And I'm curious too what winning the Producer of the Year award means to you. It's such a great honor, I imagine.
It is, especially for, it's something that I came to late in life. As I said, I turned 79 tomorrow. And to be able to do it at this stage is really great for me. I've done a lot of things in life. They weren't all successful. Some of them were big mistakes. But this is, to be able to do this still at this stage of my life is it's exciting. Like that, in my opening remarks, I tried to compare it to winning a Grammy or an Academy Award. This right here is my edition of, the Academy Award. Yeah, right. So, what can I say? I have this to take home with me, so that's great.
Hey, that's always nice to get an award, yeah. Well,
it is, yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It was so awesome getting to chat with you, and definitely be sure to check out his program on Easthampton Media. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to hear who you are, what you do on the board, and how you basically got acquainted with Easthampton Media.
Of course. So my name is Jonathan Schmidt. I'm the current treasurer of the board of eMedia. I first joined I think it was probably 2018, 2019. I was the school committee liaison to the eMedia board. No longer serve on the school committee, but I stuck around. It meshes really well with my beliefs and some of the work I'm already doing in the community, and feels like a natural fit to be here.
I was going to say, it sounds like a very natural fit. And I'm really curious on your thoughts of why community media and public broadcasting matters today.
Of course. It is a huge question. So in my day job, I'm a librarian by training and experience, and part of what I love about community media and what I've learned from being here is all of the similarities that those two sort of institutions share. And so I'm constantly thinking about community engagement and kind of resource sharing and teaching people things that they don't otherwise have the ability to learn or the access to learn. And eMedia is the perfect place to do all of those things. Sure, many of the other people you've interviewed have talked about, the importance of amplifying voices, and that's a huge part of it. But there's so much to learn here, and so many people to connect with to enrich your life in so many ways.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for chatting with us. If you at home are wondering about Easthampton Media Services and want to come out and make something, I hope that this encourages you to do so. Yeah. Hi, I'm with Chris Ferry, the president of the board of Easthampton Media, and we are here to chat all things community media and the importance of it. Chris, I'm curious, how did you first get involved with Easthampton Media?
I moved to town and wanted to make friends and love film and filmmaking and media, and was walking around Eastworks, and like so many people saw the sign. I was like, oh, media. So I went in and I met Jeff, and it was one of the reasons that I felt it was actually possible to start the film festival, was seeing what a great space and what great resources were here, and just Jeff's enthusiasm.
It sounds like it was a very natural sort of like next step, being a creative yourself and a storyteller yourself, and relocating to this area. So what is one of your favorite parts of getting to work in community media now?
Community, right? Because the tools are important. You need the lights, you need the sound-controlled studio, you need Jackson at the board, you need all of the equipment and the expertise. But you can have all of that stuff, and you need people, right? And the project is really about the relationships with the people that you decide to work on the project with. So Easthampton Media is a great library of these resources. It's a place where you can come and make your ideas real. But I like to think of it as a place where you and your community can meet and network and collaborate. And it's the clubhouse.
All right, well, thanks, Chris. Come check out Easthampton Media if you're thinking about making a project.